Tucked away in a shed at the back of Michael Tarosian's West End Toronto home, you'll find Lumiere Press. There he creates limited edition photography books using the centuries-old tradition of letterpress printing.
With a modest amount of equipment and a tremendous amount of effort, it is actually possible to make an object of incredible refinement.
These are books the way books should be made. You pick a Michael Tarosian book up and you just want to hold it.
Michael is one of the only, or I think he is the only perfectionist I've ever met who is actually perfect.
Now you're about to see one of the great machines of the 19th and 20th centuries. This machine was invented around 1886, and this particular specimen, this machine here, was built probably in the late 1950s. And for a good 100 years, every newspaper and magazine and book in the world was composed on machines like this. So for every key on the keyboard, there's a corresponding mat. And so as you type an E drops down, it falls down one of these chutes and is assembled into the composing stick. From the composing stick, it will be elevated, transferred across to the mold, injected with lead. And then the most extraordinary thing is, all of these mats travel up to the top of the machine. That arm comes down, picks them up, and puts them back in their right slots, and the whole process starts again. So it's a combination of industrial genius and incredible whimsy.
After the slugs are cast, a single page is set on the letterpress to prepare for printing.
There is absolutely no finer way of getting words on paper than a letterpress.
Michael was an accomplished photographer before he began practicing the art of printing books. He soon realized how similar the two disciplines are.
I was amazed when I did my first book, and I printed it, and I thought, boy, this is not a bad job. And I wondered how I could have done a passably good job on my first outing. And then I realized I had decades of experience in a darkroom, and tone control, uniformity of product, all of the things that I had learned in the darkroom were totally transferable to the press room. Much better. By the time I actually got to the point where I felt competent that I could do a book, I had decided to do a book on Edward Weston as my inaugural title. And I had formulated the idea for a series to pay tribute to photographers that I felt deeply indebted to, who had formed my sense of the history of photography and my personal vision of photography.
Toronto Star art critic Peter Goddard.
He refuses to compromise in any way, so he makes exquisite books devoted exclusively to photography. He only makes a few. He only makes a few within those imprints or within that publication, only a few of them. They sell for a lot of money. He doesn't get rich by it, but he keeps going by it.
The world is inundated with books. But when it comes to making books by hand on the topic of photography, I sort of own my own little bandwidth. So I don't really have to worry about competition. I have my own little territory that I can function in, and it's a very comfortable little zone.
Much of Michael's equipment is outdated. He had this bookbinding machine for a year and a half before he could figure out how to use it.
When it got to the point where I didn't think I'd ever figure it out, one of my assistants who happens to speak German phoned the factory in Leipzig, and we got this 72-year-old man who'd been with the company forever. And he took down the machine number, the actual model number, and he said, "I'll get back to you tomorrow." And he phoned back and said, "We have no record of ever having made this machine. That wing of the factory got bombed during the war."
It takes at least 1 year to create each Lumiere Press title.
I appreciate that some people might find it remarkable that anybody would spend almost a year doing a book, but I actually do enjoy the whole process. I try very hard to find the best materials I possibly can, mold-made paper, exquisite cloths.
Books from Lumiere Press are collected by major museums and art dealers around the world.
Major museums, major collectors, major galleries, right off the top. So by the time we pour slobs out in the market, may want to say, oh, well, I don't mind spending $500 for this book. You're lucky if you get a chance to do that.
Gallery owner and curator Stephen Bulger.
What's interesting is after about 6 weeks of the release of the book, they're all sold. And then on the secondary market. The book that we helped with, Dave Heath Korea, there was a special edition that also included a small print that Michael made from Dave's negative. And if memory serves, that we were charging $600 US for that edition of the book. And about 3 or 4 weeks after our book launch, and the same time that they all sold out quickly, people on the internet were offering the same object for $1,500 US.
The wonderful thing about Lumiere Press books is because they are something special. They often go into rare book collections at museums and libraries where they're very carefully preserved, so they'll be there for generations to come.